Are you at a point where you question yourself, what next, and don't have an answer? Hello, Sigrid Kaste here, book writing, publishing, and marketing specialist. I help women in business make their dream of writing a book come true, a book that will serve you as a tangible representation of your brand and a testament to your knowledge and experience and excitement. I have with me today 𝗂𝗄𝗃𝗁𝗃𝗃𝗁𝗃𝗃𝗃. Hello, Carolina. Lovely to have you here.
Lovely to be here. So thank you for having me.
It is really great because you've really intrigued me with a lot of different words and posts that I have seen from you. Now, let me introduce Carolina just a little bit, and you can tell us a bit more as we go. Carolina is a heart-centered mindset coach who empowers people to break through to their next level by reconnecting their authenticity, redesigning their strategies, and by removing limiting beliefs and conflict patterns that keep you stuck. You see, when I saw what Carolina put out there, I thought self-doubt, certainly I do have that. And a lot of the clients or the people that I work with, especially women, want to write a book, and the self-doubt is there, and they really find it difficult to overcome. How do I go about it? This getting stuck in a way of thinking that doesn't allow you to take that next step to find what to do. How is this idea of being stuck for you, for yourself? Have you experienced that, Carolina?
I believe that everybody experiences that, and I'm no exception. Absolutely. I think I get stuck maybe 20 times a week. And the thing is not that you shouldn't get stuck, right? It's basically whichever problem you have, there's always a better problem, and upgrading your problems is much better than trying to avoid them and trying to not make them be there. So I get stuck 20 times a week on little things, on not following through with my exercise regime, or not following through with my diet. I'm not on a diet, but still. Or not following through with things that I need to do for my business because I'm procrastinating. The key to being stuck and getting out of that is not to avoid it entirely. It's to recognize it and to get out of it quicker than you would do when you don't recognize it. I mean, and there's many types of being stuck, right? Self-doubt is one that you just mentioned. Overwhelm is another one that's very, very common. Or perfectionism is, there's so many ways that you can get stuck. Am I right?
Yes, I mean, definitely perfectionism is something that I have built in somewhere, or felt I've built in, and worked on not seeing it that strong any longer. I guess the question really is how did you come to realize that this is an area for you to work in, that you like to help people out of?
Well, that actually comes from another stuck moment. Of course. This was, so first of all, I kind of rolled into this. People connected with me because they liked my way of thinking and of holding space and of making them think. Because coaching is nothing more than drawing out that information that is already in the person. And I mean, it would be very arrogant of me to think that I would have the answers for you. So at me as a coach, I believe that the person has the answers in them, and that I poke and I look at patterns and say, okay, so this is where you are stuck, and this is where we are going to draw out information that gets you unstuck. So I sort of got into this line of business naturally a long time ago. I set it up next to my corporate job. And at some point, it just got too much to do on the weekends and the evenings. And I decided to make it my full-time profession. So I was very lucky with that. I realized that not everybody has that time um, to roll into a profession like this and to learn what I've learned over the years and to be able to trial and error the way that I did. But so my moment of getting exactly in that moment of, am I going to do this like as a profession, as a side business, was because I noticed that I wasn't happy where I was. I was stuck. I was very, very stuck. I was stuck in a life that was a routine, and it was a routine that I didn't like. There was stress, there was overworking, there was perfectionism, there was overwhelm on a very, very large scale. And I would even say that if I wouldn't have stopped myself and realized what I was getting into slowly, that would have ended up in a severe burnout. And so being that, feeling that, um, that coming up really. And I was already coaching people at this time. Um, so I was telling all these people to not be so perfectionistic and working with them on that. And then I was also telling people, well, that overwhelm, this is how you can go through that. How do you feel about that? What do you feel that you can do as a next step? Helping all these people through. And it never occurred to me that I could apply all those things on my own life. Funny enough.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I think that happens to a lot of us in business. We have the answers for the others, or we have the idea of the guidance. Takes ourselves to take a look at, doesn't it?
It's so easy to stand and outside of a situation and look in and say, oh, but if I would be in that situation, I would do this, this, and this differently. And then when you're actually in that situation, you do exactly the same. And you need somebody to stand outside of your situation and hold that mirror and say, hey, are you aware that you're doing this, this, and this? And you could do something about that. Um, so yes, yes.
Yeah, I think that is so. That is a really important point to make time and time again, that wherever we are, whether we are in our own business, going into our own business, or we're still somewhere in an employment situation, it is really good to be able to see in another person or in someone else's situation what is happening and how it could be much better or different for them. But for ourselves, it's like, we're sitting on the inside and we need that outside look. So for people to get that outside help, and I think just like you said, interestingly, we do have it inside, we do know, but it does take the person from the outside to tap us into that, to let us acknowledge and perhaps look at it. Even if we can't step outside ourselves, at least point it out to us, can't it? I think that's a big one.
I think so, yes.
Yes, and I love that. I love that line that you have, that tagline that you've got: dare to be different, dare to be you. I have a question around that. Who are the people who find it most difficult to be themselves when they come to you coaching? What are they? Are they male, female? Are they particular background? What are the people that find that the most difficult to be themselves?
Oh, wow. I have found that there is no person that finds it more difficult than anybody else. We all have, each and every one of us, and even the most confident person in the world has a type of an imposter syndrome and has a type of excuse me, has a type of self-doubt. That has to do with how we grow up. And it doesn't matter our environment, no matter how loving our parents were, how amazing our environment was, how many friends we had. Doesn't matter how famous we are today or how amazing our job is. Every person in this world has a "I am not good enough" statement. And the reason for that is our survival mechanism. It's just the way our brain works. It's not that we can do something about it as soon as we're aware of it. But it's not like we could have done something to prevent it. Even as parents, you cannot do anything to prevent that. And why is that? Because as a, I don't know, 3-4-year-old or up to around the age between 5 and 8, depending on the person, we are so dependent on the people around us to take care of us, to give us food, to give us shelter, to give us safety, to protect us, that we tend to put those people on a pedestal. And that's survival mechanism. Because if on top of having that bigger kid in class that's not nice to us, that truck that went past with a lot of noise, and we step away from that, from the sidewalk. And all the thunder that we have and we feel when the weather is bad, the nightmares that we have as a kid. If on top of all those dangers that are already spiking up some fear in us, we on top have to think and believe and admit to ourselves that our caregivers are not 100% perfect, we would be feeling so unsafe that we would not be able to live. So what we do in all the cases, if and every person, every parent, every caregiver at some point has a moment when they're not completely happy, and they would say, "Oh, stop whining for a moment," or "Stop doing this," or "Why can't you do that?" Or right, or they would just leave us in our crib, because in my generation, let's be honest, the doctors would say it's very good to just leave your kid in its bed and let it cry for hours until it stops. That was the norm. And so just those things, they generate this feeling in us saying, okay, so if my caregiver is angry at me and they are perfect, it means that I am doing something that's not okay. That means that I'm not good enough. And so we tend to create these statements: I'm not fast enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not achieving enough, I'm not quiet enough, I'm not a very good one for pleasers, I'm not doing enough for this person, I'm not helping enough. So we tend to create all these statements, and they fix in our body.
So look, I find that really interesting. I just want to recap what you've already said, because it's so important. First of all, what I picked up, a very important point, is that we have the answers inside of us. We just don't know that. And even if it may have come up somewhere in a conversation, or we picked up something out there and we thought, oh, we have the answer, we tend to forget that, I think. Personally, certainly, I have heard that before, but when you mentioned that just now, I thought, oh, yes, I forgot about that. So we do have that, but we don't keep that on top of mind. And the other point that I found very interesting so far is that everybody has this. You're saying that it's not one or the other, or a particular background or a particular whatever culture. We all have that, and it's almost like a natural thing because of the way we interpret our early lives, where we are so dependent on our main caregivers. That is so interesting. Does that mean then, when people come to you to work with you, Carolina, that they realize it is more of a mindset thing, or do they come and they think it's their environment, the workplace, other people?
Well, it's both. I mean, when you look at what when you look at overwhelm and being stuck and perfectionism and all those things that we get stuck in, they all have one thing in common. And the thing they have in common is that there's a gap between reality and the way we view either ourselves, the world, or the process. It's one of those three things. So for example, in perfectionism, a person would say, well, this particular process needs to be perfect. And if I take more time, or if I take more, if I have to do more iterations, I am not good enough. I am not perfect. And the realization of that it's a gap, basically, they see the process, they have envisioned the process as a certain way. So they would say, I have to walk through this process within 3 weeks. And I feel that I have to stick to these milestones throughout this week. And if I don't stick to these milestones, it means that they obviously get into that overwhelm of, wait, I had this process and reality is moving in a different direction. And so, and when reality and that process that we thought we wanted to go through starts moving away from each other, that's when we start thinking thoughts. Now, those thoughts generate feelings, emotions, like, oh, you get anxious because you feel that you should have done something. And reality moves away from that.
Mm.
So the entire gap that starts when people come to me, they see the gap. They see, I wanted to be here and I ended up here. And for it, and sometimes it's a one-time thing. Sometimes it's a recurring thing. It sometimes even is a generational thing. They said, I wanted to be a better athlete than my parents. I wanted to have a healthier lifestyle than my parents, and I ended up having the same lifestyle. And so what people come to me for is with the gap. And because they realize where the gap is. What they very often don't realize is that unconsciously, they gave themselves a certain view of the world, or a view of themselves, or a view of the process. And the reason that they feel stuck and the reason that they feel unhappy is because reality went into a different direction.
Very interesting and very deep in a way, and yet it is quite open if we knew, or if we kept it in mind, I guess. But that is what the great thing is, that there is you who can help people. Are there people from particular businesses or backgrounds coming to you, or is it open to anybody from any background finds you? Is there a particular group that comes?
Well, I find that I attract different groups depending on the season, almost, or the year.
Oh, really? Oh,
yes.
Wow.
So on certain moments, I find that people in general, like, we all know this, for example, from January. January, a lot of people, they set these how do you call them, New Year's resolutions.
Oh, yes.
And so there's a season that people say, okay, I have these New Year's resolutions usually for my health. And I see that I'm not making those resolutions, usually by the end of January. People that have businesses, they usually come to me in October, November, sometimes December, saying, hey, I had this year. I want to grow to the next level of my business. And I want to set plans for next year. So we work together on setting plans for next year. And then there's a group of people in May, June that says, oh, I'm looking forward to the summer where everything quiets down and I can do personal development. And so people come to me for personal development saying, hey, I'm going to use these 2 months of downtime to look into myself and see where I am blocking myself, where I'm blocking my business. So it's seasonal. I guess for me, because I'm in the business for so long, I started my first training 15 years ago.
Wow.
That I have a lot of people that come to me via referrals. And so, and in the beginning, so before coaching was so well known as it is today, people didn't know many coaches. So people came to the one coach that they knew, which very often was me. And they found that they came to me with different things. And that's from that group, from referrals, I still have the same, because I help the people with their business. Most people that come to me, excuse me, are working on their business and are working on getting to a higher level. However, there's also a great group of clients that know I worked with people in the past that say, I would really love to have a better relationship with my daughter, or I feel that this generational limitation is weighing on my shoulders. I would really like to work through releasing that from my system so that I can be my person instead of being like an extension of my family and my parents. So there's many people that come to me in all different types of modalities, basically.
Yeah, that sounds like a sort of really what's the common denominator? I would imagine it is that if they're coming, referral wise, they are stuck at something, and somewhere in their life there's this point of stuckness, and they just can't see beyond that. And that's where you are an expert, if I can use that word, obviously, in to take them out of that. So would you share with us, let's say, 1 or 2 things that are the most important ones for you to get that person, to trigger that person to come out of that stuckness? Is there 1 or 2 things that are really the most important ones to get started, to step up and come out of that being stuck moment?
Yes. The first thing I would do is put in a daily practice, and daily practice of something that fits you, but it's something that you do every day, no exception. It can be looking at your future of what you want to be, your near future, and then based on that one practice, for example, it can be journaling. I have one person that does 10 sit-ups in the morning. I have a person that writes affirmations, a person that does meditation, a person that plays with the dog. Just one thing that you do every morning. And why? Because it's an achievement. You set yourself up to tell yourself, hey, I promised myself that I would do this every morning, and I'm doing it. Now, these are minor things, and for some people, they sound very simple. But to be honest, people, for example, in burnout, a big achievement is just to get out of bed. And that's the thing you can celebrate, and you can pat yourself on the back for and say, I did this today. I achieved this today. And so there's a gratitude in that. All major very, very successful people have a gratitude practice where they look at their day and they say, I did something, and I did something that mattered, and I'm grateful for that particular part of my day. So that's one. The second thing is that when you feel stuck, it's like I said, it's often that gap between reality and your view of the world or the process or yourself. Become aware of the thoughts, this automatic thinking. And so what I would recommend is to put your alarm on your phone or on your desk, just an alarm clock. And you say, you put it 3 times a day, and 3 times a day you get a piece of paper and you go over the last, I don't know, hour maybe max, where you look and say, what automatic thoughts and what automatic things did I do in the last hour? That creates a certain awareness, because you pull yourself outside of yourself, looking at yourself, saying, what did I do in the last hour? That generates a certain awareness. And with that awareness, you can slowly start to, you slowly, and it goes automatically. So it's a background process. So you don't have to do anything extra for it. With that process, you start that awareness and you start to feel where the things that you have been thinking were correct. And sometimes you will laugh until you cry because you found out that you said something so ridiculous to yourself that maybe you shouldn't say it again.
That is absolutely powerful. And of course, as you are speaking, I'm thinking of what I'm doing myself. But this is so powerful. So let me just repeat on that one to make sure people actually realize the power of this. There's 2 things that you recommend that are really important, powerful things to do, definitely. And that is this daily practice. Now, sometimes people might think it's a kind of a, habit forming scenario, but that's not how you just shared it. That's not what I heard you say. I heard you say the importance here is on recognizing that I have achieved something. Every day in this daily, whatever the one thing is I do, I can pat myself, tell myself how good I was. It's an achievement. That's a completely different level of consciousness I'm taking myself into, an achievement. And I can straight away, just by the word, feeling that the confidence is raised. There's no overwhelm. It feels good. That is just fantastic. That's a great point. Thank you for sharing that one, Carolina. Absolutely love that. It's not the habit, it's this achievement, the recognition to make you feel really great. And the second one is equally important, especially in business, especially when you're sitting in front of your computer all day. And what is it that you've been thinking for the last hour? What did you tell yourself? So I guess in a way, it's that mind chatter in a way, isn't it? What we are telling ourselves to be aware. And when we stop and think about what it was we told ourselves, only then can we be present in the present moment. That's what I heard you say. Yes.
Thank you so much. You're amazing with the summary. Yes.
No, it's just, I'm so interested. That's why I've asked you to talk to us, because it is such an important thing. And the way you're looking at this, the way you're sharing that and explaining it is so powerful. I can really feel that. I've made a note, I wrote it down, because that is just fantastic. So now I want to come, we've already talked for the half hour. So I want to come to you sharing around the heart-centeredness. You're a heart-centered mindset coach. And to me, that's pretty clear, but I'd like you to explain that, or how you see that. Where does that sit?
So it's actually based in science.
Right.
We found that the heart has a sort of like a radiation field of 3 to 4 meters, which is 12 feet. up to 12 feet around the body. And so whatever we have going on in our inner world, in our hearts, is what other people will pick up on outside of us. And so if we are in our hearts not confident, not loving, not contributing, not grateful, if we have in our hearts, and of course our heart-mind connection, it's there. If we are thinking thoughts that are negative, it will lower down to our hearts, and we will radiate that to other people. And so that is the part of the heartfelt. Look into yourself, feel who you are and what you are, so that other people can truly resonate with you and not with that wall that you have in front of it.
That we like to put there to look good, or to show off. No, not show off. I don't mean it in that way, but to show we are strong when we are not, or when we're not feeling we are strong. We are, but we're not really feeling that way, aren't we, sometimes? So I think you've given us some absolutely excellent tips here, and certainly put a really shining light on that whole area of coaching, why it is so important to have somebody help you. If you're feeling stuck and you're not knowing what that next step is, get somebody in to help you get unstuck. That's been very clear right from the start in what you've shared, and then the points that you've made around everything is inside of us. We just need that, maybe not a push, but that little tap, whatever it is, to be shown the way. There is a gap. We all have these gaps. They are there that's just life. And therefore, getting some help to overcoming or to closing that gap is so important. And I love those 2 tips around the daily practice, achievement rather than, just making it a routine or repeating something. And of course, to create that awareness in the moment, to be aware and become more and more aware. Absolutely love that. You've really shared your time generously. What, if I said to you, what are your big parting words to the audience listening right now or later on in the replay, Carolina?
I would say for everyone out there, just, you can do it. And anything, you can do it.
Anything is possible.
Anything is possible. Anything is possible.
It is possible.
As long as you have your mindset in order.
Your mindset, that's a big one. I think we didn't even really go into that too much, but mindset is a big part, isn't it, of, do people realize that it is the mindset, or do they just, like I think I said it before, do they think it's the surrounds, somebody else?
People never realize it's the mindset, and that's part of our survival mechanism as well. So it's not our fault that we don't realize that we have the power to control everything, and that if we take responsibility, that we take our power to change things. And it's normal. It's normal that that's mindset, and saying it's me is not the first thing that comes to mind, but it is where the best changes and the most profitable and most powerful changes happen. I mean, the one thing we really control in this world is the way we think and how we look at the world, because the world will do what it does.
That is so interesting and so powerful to say that, because the world is, I mean, at any time, somewhere or other in turmoil, and things are happening, and we might get fearful of what is happening. But the one thing we can change is our way of thinking about whatever it is it's happening, is exactly what I'm hearing. Yes. Wonderful. Thank you so much, 𝗂𝗄𝗂𝗃𝗂𝗃, for your time, for sharing those tips with us. And
Thank you.
it's all recorded, so I can go back over it. Viewers can go back over it. It's going to be absolutely fantastic to go back and take this on board and do it yourself in as much as starting your own first couple of steps and actions, and then go in and get some help. So important. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. Thank you to all.
Very much.
Yep. And how do people contact you? Just on LinkedIn? You
Absolutely.
are there? Fantastic. Wonderful. All right. Thank you. And we'll sign off with that. Thank you.
Thank you.